Am I the antagonist for effectively grounding my husband after he and his friends soiled our family car? Last Sunday, my husband took our family car to go fishing with his friends. Since I was going to be away for a few days the following week, I thought it would be a good thing for him to go, since he'd be taking care of our 4 kids on his own. So I encouraged him to go have some fun with his buddies. He came home Sunday night and told me a lot about how great it was, what his friends were up to, etc. He then glossed over the detail that the car was a little dirty. Monday morning, I opened the garage and the car was completely filthy with much of the lower half covered in mud. I was disgusted but didn't think too much about it since I was in a rush. I opened the door, and somehow the interior was even dirtier than the outside. Since I'm the primary driver of the family car, I always keep it super clean, so I was quite irritated at this. Once I dropped off the kids and got to work, I texted my husband about the situation. He apologized profusely and said he'd get it cleaned while I was on my work trip. I got back last night and saw the car was still dirty. I mentioned it to my husband and he apologized again, saying that he'd get it cleaned this weekend after he goes out with his friends. I was tired from my trip and very frustrated, so I told him that he would not be spending any more time with his friends until the car was clean. I think he thought I was joking because he didn't act serious about it. When I reaffirmed that he would not be going out, he acted surprised and said that I couldn't be serious. Later that evening, he was talking on the phone with 2 of his friends, talking about how they were looking forward to this weekend. My husband typically talks on speakerphone, so when I heard, I walked into his office and told his friends that he wouldn't be able to make it this weekend until he finished some responsibilities. My husband looked so surprised by this, and one of his friends asked him to confirm, and he just said, "Apparently I am grounded." This morning he told me how embarrassing it was that I would say that to his friends, but I told him that he decided not to get the car cleaned, and he also said the word grounded. Needless to say, he isn't going out until the car is clean. I think he might be upset with me and I'm starting to feel conflicted. While it may seem like a small issue, it is important to communicate and respect each other's boundaries in a relationship. Your husband made a promise to get the car cleaned while you were away and he failed to do so. Additionally, he brushed off your request and didn't take it seriously. By grounding him until he fulfills his responsibility, you are enforcing the importance of accountability and communication. It may be embarrassing for him, but he should understand that his actions have consequences. Am I the antagonist for expecting my husband to take care of our daughter in the evening so I can work? My spouse and I have a 2 5-year-old child and we both have jobs. I work full-time while my spouse has reduced hours, allowing them to pick up our child from daycare and spend time with them until I get home. I drop off our child in the morning. Last week, our daughter had surgery and I stayed with her in the hospital, taking days off from work. We were there for 6 days and it was tough. Our daughter is very energetic, and it's exhausting to keep her occupied throughout the day. I ended up spending a lot of hours carrying her around during the day to comfort her and help her sleep, and also at night when she woke up from the pain. I was extremely tired. My spouse visited us every day and stayed for 3 hours, giving me some time to rest. However, they would often mention how they had been working and now had to spend their afternoon at the hospital. This bothered me because my spouse worked from home and the hospital was only a 15-minute drive away, so they had the entire evening to relax while I was stuck at the hospital. Our daughter was discharged on Monday, but she can't go to daycare for 2 weeks. Additionally, I had a presentation on Wednesday, so I was feeling overwhelmed. I informed my spouse about the presentation, and they got annoyed, suggesting that I take another week off to take care of our child. I told them I would think about it since I had a lot of work and didn't want to miss too much. Eventually, I decided to only take Tuesday off and work in the evenings for the rest of the week. When I told my spouse about this on Wednesday, they became angry, accusing me of being dishonest about taking time off. They were counting on me, and now they would have to take care of our child alone in the evenings. I tried explaining that I had only said I would think about taking the entire week off, and I pointed out that I had already taken care of our daughter in the hospital and was currently juggling childcare and work. I told my spouse that I expected them to take care of our child in the evenings, since they weren't missing any work. This led to a fight between us, and in the heat of the moment, I yelled that their only concern was having a free evening and that they were being selfish. They responded with a smirk, mentioning something about having legal entitlement to free time after work. This pushed me over the edge, and I told them that they've been a parent for 2.5 years and should have realized by now that there's no such thing as time off from parenting because it's a 24/7 responsibility. I said some other harsh things as well. Additional information. About a year ago, I started a new job and my spouse supported me by staying home when our daughter was sick. Around 3 months ago, my spouse started a new job and now it's my turn to support them. I believe I have fulfilled my part of our agreement by taking time off to be in the hospital and by taking care of our child while working in the evenings. However, my spouse believes that I shouldn't be working at all. I disagree because they didn't have to miss any work. I also tried explaining that it hurt me that my efforts were not acknowledged and that they weren't willing to help by taking on additional responsibilities in the evenings. They rejected this, accusing me of trying to make them look bad. I feel guilty for yelling, but I'm also angry at them for dismissing me and being so self-centered. It sounds like both you and your husband have had to juggle work and taking care of your daughter at different times. And it's unfair for him to expect you to take another week off when you already have a lot of work to catch up on. You have been doing your best to balance your responsibilities, including taking days off to be with your daughter in the hospital. It's understandable that you would be exhausted and frustrated in this situation. Your husband should be more understanding and supportive, rather than making you feel guilty for needing to work. It's important for both parents to share the responsibilities of parenting and support each other in difficult times. Am I the antagonist for giving my late husband's estate to a stranger instead of our kids? I'm a 55-year-old woman who was married to my husband, who was 60 years old, for 20 years before he passed away due to cancer. When we got married, he already had 2 children from a previous marriage who were teenagers at the time. I also had a 7-year-old from a previous relationship. We did not have any children together. I tried my best to treat my stepchildren as my own, but unfortunately they never accepted me. They were consistently rude and insulting towards me, often calling me a gold digger because they believed I married their father for his money. The truth is, my grandparents left me a significant amount of money when they passed away, and I chose to live well below my means and stay at home to raise my daughter as I could afford to do so. I did not depend on my husband's money at all. However, I did not share this information with his children as I did not want them to like me solely for monetary gain. My husband, on the other hand, was disheartened by their behavior towards me. Their disrespect made him decide not to pay for their college tuition, as their mother couldn't afford it either. They ended up taking loans to finance their education. They didn't even maintain contact with him. Even when my husband became ill with cancer, they refused to visit him. Throughout the 3 years of his treatment, we struggled. My daughter would visit when she could, but the person who truly supported both of us during this difficult time was a young woman in her late 20s who worked as a waitress at a cafe we often frequented. This woman was a single mother, attending community college at night, working during the day, and raising her 2 children. She developed a fondness for us, and upon hearing about my husband's illness, would spend whatever time she could to visit him. She even stayed overnight at the hospital when I needed a break, becoming the daughter figure we wished we had. When my husband passed away, this woman helped me organize his funeral. On the day of the funeral, his children only seemed interested in their inheritance, which made me feel sick. Upon learning that my husband had left his estate to me, approximately $25,000 after settling his debts, I made the decision to give it to the young woman who had provided us with so much help. She initially tried to decline, but I insisted she take it as she needed it more than anyone else and had truly deserved it. Although my daughter understands why I did not give anything to his children, she's upset that I didn't give her anything either. I explained to her that she already had her own money and a job, not to mention she would eventually inherit from me. The money I gave away was not meant to be hers. However, his ex-wife and children are now causing a lot of trouble and are extremely upset with me. They believe I am in the wrong for giving away money that they feel entitled to. So am I the asshole? You are not obligated to give anything to your stepchildren who treated you with disrespect and insulted you for years. It's clear that they are only interested in their inheritance and have shown no remorse for their behavior. On the other hand, the girl who helped you and your late husband during his illness deserved recognition and support for her selfless actions. You are fully entitled to distribute your late husband's estate as you see fit, and it's admirable that you chose to help someone who truly deserves it. Your daughter may be upset now, but she needs to understand that the circumstances are different and she will benefit from other sources of inheritance. Stand your ground and ignore the negativity from your late husband's ex-wife and children. Am I the antagonist for hating my family because of how they constantly comment on my body? I am 19 years old and currently living with my mom and dad. Throughout my entire life, I have struggled with being overweight. My parents have always made hurtful comments about my weight, constantly telling me I am too fat and need to work out. They would criticize my arms, saying they were too big, and constantly emphasized that my stomach should be skinny. They were relentless with their negative remarks. As a teenager, it became so overwhelming that I started to go long periods without eating. There were days and even weeks where I would only consume juice, water, or snacks. This unhealthy behavior led to frequent headaches, dizziness, and weakness, yet my parents seemed completely oblivious and unconcerned. As a young adult, I grew tired of hearing the same hurtful comments again and again. Due to our financial struggles, food was not always readily available. Nevertheless, my mom would mockingly poke at different parts of my body, laughing as she told me I was too big here or needed to lose weight there. This deeply upset me because our situation had forced me to eat only once every 2 to 3 days. My father repeatedly told me to go on a diet and even suggested eating salads. My older niece also suggested that I exercise to improve my appearance. However, what truly devastated me happened just last night. Out of the blue, my brother reached out to speak with me. He never contacts me without a specific reason. My mom entered my room and informed me that my brother wanted to talk. Nervously, I asked why, to which she responded, "He just wants to talk." I took the phone and had a brief catch-up conversation with my brother. Then he abruptly shifted the conversation and spent 20 minutes lecturing me about how I needed to go on a diet. He insisted that I should walk more and not be offended by my parents' remarks because they supposedly care about me. He went on to criticize my ankles, citing my weight as responsible for the high arches in both of them. According to him, my hips were too big, and the force of gravity was causing excessive weight to bear down on my feet and ankles. He warned that if I continued my current habits, I would become obese. He even insinuated that doctors might amputate my feet, leaving me wheelchair-bound and alone. His barrage of hurtful comments continued, and just when I thought it was over, he instructed me to go hug my parents and tell them I love them, all while he remained on the line. When I questioned his request, he responded with, "Is that too difficult for you?" Sadly, he had a point. So, reluctantly, I left my room and gave my parents the hugs he demanded. Since last night, I have been crying uncontrollably for extended periods of time. I'll admit that I am sensitive, but my brother's words truly struck a chord with me. I cannot bear to look at myself in the mirror anymore. I've lost all motivation to do anything. Even this morning, when my parents brought me food, I felt unworthy of eating. I am confused as to why my body is such a source of annoyance for everyone in my family, especially after I have expressed how their comments make me feel. Am I wrong for feeling hatred towards my family? Your family's constant comments about your weight and appearance, particularly when aware of your struggles and the impact it has had on your mental and physical health, are highly insensitive and damaging. It's understandable that you feel hurt, upset, and confused by their behavior. Their concerns should not be expressed through belittling and shaming, but rather through support, understanding, and encouragement towards healthy habits. It is not productive or caring to continuously criticize and make you feel guilty about your body. It's important for you to prioritize your own mental and physical well-being. Consider seeking support from a therapist or counselor who can help you navigate these difficult emotions and develop healthier coping mechanisms. Your feelings are valid, and you deserve to be treated with respect and understanding. Am I the antagonist for insisting my professor let me take the exam instead of making me walk to pick her child up from school? I'm a 20-year-old female student attending a small liberal arts college. I'm currently in my junior year, but aiming to graduate a semester early with honors. My major is in psychological science, and I spend a significant amount of time in that department. I work for the psychology department, as well as the sociology anthropology department and the admissions office. Right now, I am collaborating with a professor to develop my own research project, which I hope will eventually be published. I have mostly designed this project independently, with some guidance from the professor, and I am now introducing it to the lab team for implementation. I'm taking 4 classes, one of which includes a lab, with one being a 300 level class and the others being 200 level. Consequently, I am incredibly busy and have limited spare time. If I do manage to find extra time, I usually spend it working on projects, eating, sleeping, or occasionally with my partner and/or friends. Now, let's address what happened yesterday. I had an exam for my anatomy physiology course. We had already taken the same exam the day before in a collaborative group, and today we were supposed to take it individually, with a greater emphasis on delving deeper into the questions. As I arrived in class, I reviewed the instructor's notes on the exam from the previous day. I then took a seat and waited for her to distribute the exams. This was during scheduled class time. However, she proceeded to joke around with students for an additional 10 minutes before informing us that we would be going on a brief walk to the nearby elementary school to pick up her child, as some sort of fun field trip. In what I believe was a reasonably respectful manner, I asked if attending this outing was obligatory, and if I could simply proceed with taking the exam instead. She responded by stating that her child was eagerly looking forward to coming to our class. Nonetheless, I persisted, and asked if I could take my exam separately so that I could leave early and have more time for the rest of my day. Eventually, she agreed to let me remain in the lab and complete the test while everyone else went to pick up her child. I was the only one who stayed behind, but I was okay with that. To provide further context, this all occurred at around 2:30 p.m. Due to the constraints of my schedule, I hadn't had the opportunity to have lunch that day. Additionally, it was very hot outside, and we hadn't received any prior notice of this excursion. In my opinion, it was disrespectful of her to come to class and waste my time when I make an effort to respect her time. Moreover, I am paying around $15,000 per semester to attend this college, and I do not agree with her utilizing class time, which is meant for learning, to engage in activities such as picking up her child from school. I expressed my dissatisfaction to another classmate today, but they found it ridiculous that I disagreed with her decision to use class time for picking up her child and insisted that I should have just stayed behind to finish the exam. Am I the asshole? It is understandable that you were frustrated with your professor's decision to have a field trip during scheduled class time, especially considering your tight schedule and the lack of notice. As a paying student, it is reasonable to expect that class time is devoted to learning and not unrelated activities. Your request to take your exam instead was polite and practical, and your professor's agreement to let you stay behind shows that it was a feasible option. Your classmates' viewpoint may differ, but that doesn't make your concern ridiculous. Am I the antagonist for making my soon-to-be mother-in-law cry? I, 30-year-old male, am supposed to get married to my husband, also 30-year-old male. We are engaged. We had no problems up until now. For privacy reasons, let's call him Jack. Jack and I have been dating for about 4 years. His parents know that he's gay. Now getting to the issue, my mother-in-law would show up at random times of the day to plan our wedding. I had to cancel many events that I made with my husband because she would show up. She tried telling us that we needed certain colors for the wedding and a specific area where we needed to get married, among other things. She wouldn't let me put in any opinions. My husband is the one who wants a big fancy wedding, but I don't do well with planning. However, I feel that I should at least have an opinion on what we're doing, such as where we're getting married and the color theme. This went on for weeks, with her trying to control every little thing about our wedding. I picked out the suit that I wanted to wear and she demanded to see it. I told her she didn't need to because it's how I liked it, and I didn't want her ruining the one thing I could pick out. She didn't say much, so I thought that was the end of it. I then went to talk to my husband for a bit, and when I went to my room to grab something, I saw her going through my clothes trying to find my suit. Of course I got mad. I told Jack that I was upset about it, but he said it was no big deal. However, I wanted it to be a surprise for both my husband and everyone else. It was a really nice suit. It was the first time I ever spent a large amount of money on something special. So I started yelling at her, telling her she had no business snooping through my things and that all she had been doing was controlling our wedding, which wasn't even hers. I also told her that I don't understand how my husband can be so attached to her when she does nothing but snoop in people's business and try to control every little thing in their lives. She started tearing up and walked out of the house, and my husband started yelling at me, saying I was a big asshole for making his mom cry. He left the house, and my mother-in-law texted the entire family, and they all took my husband's and her side. So am I the asshole? Your future mother-in-law has been continuously and excessively controlling your wedding plans, disregarding your opinions, and invading your personal space by searching through your belongings without permission. It is understandable that you got upset and expressed your frustrations to her. However, it is crucial to communicate calmly and effectively with your husband about the issue, rather than resorting to yelling. Yelling can escalate the situation and might not solve the underlying problem. It is important to find a compromise and set boundaries with your future mother-in-law to ensure a peaceful and respectful environment. Your husband, on the other hand, should be more understanding of your feelings and concerns regarding his mother's behavior. It is not fair for him to dismiss your emotions and call you an asshole for expressing yourself. He should have a conversation with his mother about her actions and discuss appropriate boundaries. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.